Welcome back to ChatChit. That's round 18 in the books, and this was sort of the first round that we're going to see multiple finals-like matches in every single round from here on out. We saw Gold Coast versus Collingwood, which was huge. We're going to dive into it in a second, but also huge games. Bulldogs Adelaide, GWS Geelong, and there's going to be Fremantle Hawthorn, all these teams in the top 9 being forced to play each other now and fight it out. The 8 is being shaped, the 4 is being shaped, but we're going to go into our game of the round, which was Gold Coast versus Collingwood.
I mean, to put it simply, it was just a tale of two halves. I mean, Collingwood looked dead and buried at halftime. They kicked 8 behind, 0 goals. They were goalless for the first time, and in a half, and I don't know how long. Some crazy stat. But at halftime, they got in a huddle before they went into the change rooms. They got in a huddle on the field, and they had some sort of conversation. Something like, it must have been something along the lines of, "We're not backing down. There's no way we're putting out that performance again." The score wasn't even that blown out at halftime. You'd think if a team is scoreless or goalless, at halftime, the game should almost be finished. But it wasn't too far off. And then we saw in the second half what happened.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to dissect individual performances in our next segment, top 5 players of the round. But just on a broader scale, there were some real heroics from young leaders of both these sides. Collingwood, it's kind of insane how they can just be having not kicked a goal in the first 2.5 quarters of a match, and as soon as they kick that first one, you just know they're in it. You know that they're in it. They celebrate like any other team might have a more mellow celebration there. It's a bit embarrassing to celebrate a goal big when you're down 40, but they knew they were in the game. We know they're the best team in it right now. They weren't at their best in that first half, but Collingwood reminded us that they're never going to die easy this year.
But it was all credit to Gold Coast when Collingwood did eventually take the lead at one point with only a few minutes to go. I mean, we were messaging each other when Collingwood were getting close. We said, Collingwood might win this by 20 points. There were all the momentum going with them. But as soon as Gold Coast got out of that defensive mindset where they was just holding on for the whole second half, we saw Noah Anderson, 2 consecutive clearances, be hugely influential. Got the score involvement, and then the goal, the second one, to take the lead with a goal gap.
Yeah, and I've got a pretty big statement from me, which is, as someone who's always sort of hated Collingwood, the way that they play when they're down in the 3rd and 4th quarter, it's made me love this team. Like, love watching them as much as any team in the league. Like, just the adrenaline that they can get where they just are running on top of the ground when the other team is just exhausted is incredibly impressive. But I reckon let's dive into our top 5 players of the round.
Absolutely pissing down here at the turn. Marcus has Jesus! Usain Bolt wouldn't get him now.
The legend becomes immortal.
Yeah, I'll start us off. My number 5, I had Brodie Grundy, who is, according to Champion Data, the number 1 player in the competition of the last 6 weeks, and comfortably at number 1 as well. I'm sure everyone's seen, if you didn't quite catch the game, you've seen the tap at the end of the game where he found Errol for the left foot snap from about 40 odd metres. But he dominated Marshall, and he dominated, I think it's Heath is the other ruckman from St Kilda. But he smashed them the entire game. It was a similar performance to when he was up against Jackson and Darcy the week before. I don't know what he's eating, but the way he's able to go, and he plays almost full game time. He's almost got the entire ruck. McLean gives a bit of ruck relief. But the way he's able to go the entire game and be dominant. And he's taking contested marks now, which we didn't exactly see from him in the last couple of years at the Swans, and even in the first half of this year. But he's playing with such freedom.
Yeah, he's the best ruck in the league right now in every single department.
It's comfortable now. Yeah. And a few weeks ago I was talking about we might have 4 ruckmen as a joke, but almost seriously, almost 4 ruckmen in the All Australian team. But now Sherry looks like he's dropped out.
Suspended for 3 weeks.
Suspended for 3 weeks, and it was a pretty crude. Everyone's got the bit of recency bias, and with Grundy coming, you'd think he's the front runner with probably Gawn and maybe Darcy Cameron coming as well. Luke Jackson's fallen away a bit with Darcy coming back in, but yeah, he's my number 5.
Love it. I couldn't quite squeeze him in, but it's a week after. It's probably 6 or 7 weeks in a row. You could easily put him in this top 5. And my number 5 is Marcus Bontempelli. Now his team lost, but Bont, as always, can hold his head up high, and he was completely dominant. To lead the game by 8 in disposals, so you're having more of the footy than anyone, but to also lead the game by 3 in tackles, that is a leader. In my eyes, he's comfortably the best captain in the league. We've had a lot of talk about how great Noah Anderson's captaincy and just leading from the front has been recently. You don't really know what goes on behind closed doors, but if there's anyone that leads from the front on the field, it's Marcus Bontempelli. He was magnificent.
I agree. I couldn't quite get him in. There were a lot of about 6 or 7 guys that I really wanted to squeeze into my top 5. At number 4, I had Josh Dacos.
Yeah.
And if Collingwood had gotten over the line, he could have even been at number 1 for how well he played in the last quarter. He had 16 disposals in the first 3 quarters, 16 in the last. Everyone's seen the stats.
And plus 2 goals.
2 goals, almost kicked a third as well. 5 tackles. He was... I mean, I don't know if they knew how good he was going to be in the midfield. It was just like, let's just throw something at it and see what happens. But it's clearly a magnet now they can play with for the rest of the year, and they know he's going to be comfortable when he goes in there.
Yeah, according to the rating points, that was the best individual quarter of any of the 4 quarters since, I think, the 2000s, and that definitely holds up from the eye test because that's the best individual quarter that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was quite scary what he was doing. So clean in the fourth quarter when everyone was a bit tired. He was running on top of the ground.
The only quarter I can think of that rivals it in my lifetime is Nick Davis' fourth quarter against Geelong in the semi-final, 2005. But yeah, I had Josh Dacos at 4 as well. So jumping into my number 3, I had Jordan Dawson. He's another one throwing his hat into the ring for All-Australian captain. He's an absolute lock for All-Australian, could easily lock away a Brownlow. And, I'm just going to say, I could get into his performance here, but it just crushes the soul as a Swans fan that we, I think, prioritised keeping a couple of other players to keeping Jordan Dawson, and that really, really hurts. He was just amazing. On the other side of the performance of Bontempelli, he was just as good, if not better, kicked a couple of goals, led the game in score involvements with 2 goal assists as well, and yeah... I love guys like Bontempelli and Dawson who to be the best ball user in your side and also lead your side in tackles per game. I think that's such a good indicator of an amazing leader.
He didn't quite squeeze into my top 5. At number 3, I had Aaron Cadman. So the game was really close at halftime in another finals type win where both teams need this win to charge towards the top 4 or secure themselves in the top 8. And up steps Aaron Cadman at halftime. So we had 9 touches in the second half, 6 of them being goals. And we know that key position players take a few years to sort of get into their stride, and especially key forwards. And I think last couple of weeks especially, the way he flies at balls, his easiness, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but to kick 50 metres, to comfortably make the distance. And he really stood up to kick 6 goals against Geelong in the second half when your team desperately needs it was huge.
Yeah, to be a young dude like that, making Jesse Hogan, the Coleman medalist, play second fiddle. He's an incredibly talented key forward, and I think one of the big narratives out of this year has been the emerging key forwards, and he's been at the forefront of that. I couldn't quite squeeze him in. My number 2 was Noah Anderson, briefly aforementioned. Absolute captain's performance. Might not have been as dominant as like this number 2 spot suggests throughout the match, but huge moments in the fourth quarter, which he's just done repeatedly. Last season, he's kicked after the siren goals. I think he's done it twice in his career after the siren goals to win. And then he's also just sealing games, laying huge tackles, getting huge clearances when his team needs it. When the skills sort of fall a little bit because you're getting nervous and edgy, he just stands up, and he did it again this week.
I like it. I didn't have in my top 5. It was tough, and I didn't really want to have 3 players from one game, but I mean, it could have very easily done that. At number 2, I had Josh Dunkley, who had a ridiculous game. He sort of played a minor tagging role on Patrick Cripps. He's just a player you'd want to play for your team. Sort of similar to Liberatore, or a guy like Raul, who's going to come up in a second. But he had 13 tackles and 28 touches, along with doing a decent job on Cripps. But he was everywhere in that game, and with McCluggage well held by, I believe it was Chincotta in the game, he really stood up.
Yeah, my number 1, which I assume is the same for you, was Matt Rowell. Yeah. He is just an absolute animal. There's just no comparison in the league or a player I've ever seen for a guy that every single stoppage he is going at his absolute hardest. He's making himself an absolute wrecking ball. If he gets the ball, you're going to be incredibly uncomfortable trying to stop him. And if you get the ball, he's going to tackle you. I've never seen a player quite like it. And you compare it to some of the guys who might have a better frame, more size, be quicker on their feet, might be more skillful, except he is just going to give 100% effort, and he's developing those skills as well. So he kicks 2 goals this game, leads the game with 13 tackles, 32 disposals, including 12 clearances, 9 inside 50s, 7 free kicks, 4. He was an absolute beast.
Yeah, nothing else to add. He was an animal, like you said. We'll move on to the next segment.
We're doing hits and misses. My hit for this week is Fremantle. Now, they're going to be talked a lot this week, which they deserve because they're not recognised in the same way as a lot of those other sides in that top 9, but they're showing that they're there to stay, and I love this. I'm going to say it every time they get a big win. I had them making the top 4 this season. It's still possible. They are a stacked team all over. If Longmuir can get them playing this way, where they're solid defensively and then get a hold of the game in the midfield, they now have that firepower up forward where they're converting enough of their inside 50s that they are a final side that could do damage and could knock your team out of finals.
As much as I'd love them to push, we sort of need them to fall away for the Swans to make it.
Unfortunately, they're hitting form at the wrong time for the Swans.
My hit's a really simple one. I had the Pitternet talk from 60 to end of the first. And I thought that was awesome. I mean, we don't. It's not often that we see players like, it sort of has to be after the siren.
I didn't see the game. Did he kick it?
He smashed it.
Oh, shit.
60 metres, it just cleared the line.
But can he not do that so that he can get dropped and Tom DeConing can get me Supercoach points?
But I absolutely loved it. If you haven't seen it, just go watch. They all get around him at the end of the first quarter, and at the time in the game was a really important goal.
I mean, not much for the Carlton players to go around at the moment, so
100%.
It's nice that they had that.
When you big Rockman, who's only kicked a handful of goals in his career, goes absolutely nuts from 60.
And look, my miss, it's the Western Bulldogs. And so they'll be talked about in the opposite way to Freo, that they're not getting it done against the top sides. I think they're now...
That's funny, that. I had the exact same miss.
Oh, great. So that you're going to tell us their record against top 9 sides?
I believe it's 1-8.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah. And it's just not good enough. It's the same story every year, it seems, that they're now sitting 9th, Dos. How much talk has there been about the ridiculous talent on their list? Yeah. No list can compare to their key forward talent. No list can compare to their midfield talent. And yet they're sitting here in 9th. It's really strange. I don't like pointing fingers at individuals that they're like the reason a team's losing, but Bevo's not been getting it done with an incredibly stacked list.
I think it's tough to point fingers at individuals in this team.
No, I'm saying Bevo.
Oh, okay, I get that, but actual individuals that are playing, they're all. You could argue that a lot of them are playing well. Yeah, they're not beating the good sides.
I think there's got to be discussions about the talent in the team all just being rotated through the centre, and then when you have about 7 guys in your side that are your most talented players, all seeing themselves as primarily inside midfielders, maybe this is wrong, but you get a sense that when they're not in the inside midfield, they're not working their arse off as a forward pocket. That's not their role. They're not working their arse off as a wingman. That's just their resting time before they get back into the midfield. And so, I don't know if that makes any sense, except you feel like you're not distributing your talent in the best possible way. And it's been the case for just years and years. This Bulldog side should be top 4 every year, should have the success that Geelong has been having over the last 4 or 5 years when you look at purely talent. But they sit in 9th again, a win outside of this top 8.
But yeah, the way to label them is the flat track bullies. I mean, they beat all the sides in the bottom 9, only just edged over the Swans a couple of weeks ago. They got a massive game against Brisbane coming up. They can still comfortably make the 8. I mean, their percentage of almost 130 is going to be enough if they can equal the points. But they're going to have to start figuring out how to beat these good teams. I'm not exactly sure what it is or what we can pinpoint it on. Maybe it's the midfield stuff you talked about. Maybe it's the defense. I mean, that's probably where you say their weakest part of the game is. But yeah, they got quite a bit to do to make the top 8, and they're going to have to start beating those sides. We'll move straight into the next segment in the pyramid. There are more changes in the pyramid this week than there probably have been in the last 10 or so weeks.
3 changes?
There's 3 changes in the pyramid. And we haven't had that for a while, but a lot of the good players have sort of got into a bit of a rut of form, and a lot of players are charging into the top 15 players. So we have 3 outs. Tristan Sherry is out. He's been in the pyramid for quite a while, but I mean, he didn't have his best game against Gawn, and he's now going to miss 3 weeks.
Yep.
Luke Jackson's also out of the pyramid. He's struggling to really rip games apart with Sean Darcy sort of taking a lot of the rock time away from him. We saw before Sean Darcy was playing, he was really dominating games, ripping them apart.
It's really interesting, sort of the mental side of players, that when Jackson is given that responsibility, he responds so well to it, and he was like the best player on the ground like 4 or 5 straight games when he had the responsibility of solo ruck. So you wonder what they're going to do about it come finals time.
And the third out, you might disagree, but I have Bailey Smith out of the pyramid. So he missed the 2 games in a row. He had the bye, missed a game, and then was completely kept out of the game against GWS. And that's 3 games where he hasn't really had much impact. And for me, form vibes out of the pyramid. That means we have three guys coming in. Two of them are in the 5th tier. One of them's Callahan. He's coming into the pyramid.
Oh, we got Matt Rowell in the 4th tier.
No, Matt Rowell's also in the 5th tier. He's coming into the pyramid. Keeping their places in the 5th tier. Max Holmes, who also didn't have his greatest game against GWS. Hugh McCluggage is just going to hold this spot. And Wangani Malira is going to hold this spot, even after being pretty well held by James Jordan. But the weeks before that, he's going to deserve to hold a spot. Moving into the 4th tier, Zach Butters is going to enter the pyramid again. He's the 3rd one coming in, just putting up performance after performance. And I believe he's 2nd in the coaches' votes as well, so he's charging towards that.
Despite missing 3 games?
Yeah, so he's missed quite a few games, but he keeps putting them up. Jeremy Cameron's going to drop it to the 4th tier. Really struggled against GWS, well held. Sam Darcy's just going to hold his spot. Had a decent game, but it's really tough when you're the main focal point and every team comes in just targeting you.
There's been so many almost marks in the last few weeks, and that'll just happen for a young key forward, but suddenly he'll start clunking a couple and then his form will be back.
And we've seen what's happened to Norton because Darcy gets targeted so much and all the eyes are drawn to Darcy. Norton is probably in some career best form at the moment. He kicked 4 or 5 goals
against the Swans.
Against the Swans again this week, but he's playing well. I'd say a large part of that is attributed to the attention Darcy gets paid, and Heaney's going to drop a tier to the 4th tier. It's really competitive, and you're going to see the names that have moved up as well. In the 3rd tier, Nick Dacos has moved down a tier. Didn't have a huge game, but there's someone in the same game as him that's going to replace him in the 2nd tier. Grundy's going to move up a tier, now sitting in the 3rd tier. I mean, number 1 player in the competition, according to Champion Data.
Has to be top 3.
And he keeps putting up performance after performance each week. And you'd think he's going to absolutely hammer whoever North Melbourne bring in with Tristan Sherry coming out. So if you haven't got him in Supercoach, I'd get on that.
Good luck, Finbar Maley.
Yeah, 100%. And Jordan Dawson is going to move up a tier as well, sitting in the 3rd tier. Moving into the 2nd tier, Ed Richards is going to hold this spot. 2 goals, 29.
Yep.
Yeah, just another ridiculous performance. And Noah Anderson is going to move into the 2nd tier. I mean, potential to be All-Australian captain. You're not. We'll wait and see. But puts in performance after performance, and it's exactly what you want your captain to do when a team like Collingwood are flying and you need someone to stand up. Bontempelli is going to top the pyramid again. Another ridiculous performance. You think he's going to be All-Australian if he plays the amount of games that he needs to play. If he plays the season out, he'll be All-Australian and he'll meet the criteria for games. I believe he can miss 1 game.
Yeah.
Now,
lovely.
That's the pyramid. You can see it in front of you. Let me know if you disagree.
And we've got a couple less changes in the power rankings. As we do with the power rankings, when we get to this time in the year where places are very solidified, just going to show it to you very quickly. Last week's is right here. The bottom 9 stays the exact same. Then towards here we have Hawthorn and Bulldogs dropping spots, Freo and Gold Coast jumping. All of those 4 teams played in finals-like games, and those were really important results. And then at the top, I've just got Brisbane pipping Geelong. I still think it's fair to say, despite Geelong's loss to GWS, these are the 3 teams that have players with premiership experience. All 3 teams have about half a side at least with premiership experience. Brisbane a full team. And they just have young talent coming through on top of that. We just know when it gets to finals time, they're all prepared to be at their best. But with Brisbane's recent form and Geelong dropping that game to GWS, I'm just going to put Brisbane above them.
I like it. Let us know what you think of the power rankings, and we'll see you all in the next one.